What's up? The world champion Yuyen Jun is not having his best tournament in Norway, and she faced Divya Desmuk in the sixth round of the tournament. Divya Desmuk the last year won the World Cup, so we are having a match between the world champion and the World Cup winner. So let's see what happened in this game. Okay, Divya opened with e4, e5 by Yen Jun, knight f6, knight c3, bishop b5. Spanish opening a6, bishop a4, knight f3, sword castle, bishop b7. And here we have the move d3, going for a close Spanish. The other main move is rook e1, with the idea of play c3, h3, d4. Just trying to play faster with more force lines. But d3 is trying to don't force the game and avoid the martial defense, especially, and trying to keep the position close. I really like this type of position with just to watch the games and with both colors, because I feel that it's very interesting in strategy. And in this type of games, the player who understand better the position used to win. There are no so much theory and okay, there are tactics, but it's not a tactical position, but it's a position about understanding. So okay, let's see, b5, bishop b3, and d6. I prefer d6 instead of for castle fast is playable, but I prefer d6 because now okay you are going with knight a5, so white should make something. Here three main moves are c3, a3, and a4, played by Divya. And again here maybe a4 is the sharpest move. And again black have some options. One of them was bishop b7, but this is the maybe the worst normal move because the bishop on e7 used to be good, or with the pawn on c3 to break on d5, or here with the pawn on d7 to break on d5. But when we have the pawn on d3 and we have the pawn on d6, play bishop b7 is not used to be a good idea, because bishop d7 with the pawn on d3 is to break with d5, because if not, this bishop here is close with this pawn chain. So bishop b7 here is not my favorite move. Bishop d7 is very good. Rook b8 is another playable move. But okay, b4 is completely normal, of course. a5. Here, the idea of a5 is fix the pawn on a6, and okay, here white have a space. And this pawn could be weak one day with bishop d2. I'm not saying that black is going to lose this pawn, but maybe one day it's going to be loose. Or with rook a4, white have these stress ideas of rook a4, bishop a4, and yeah, the a6 pawn is going to be weak. So interesting move a5, sword castle, and here Divya play this sideline trying to fight for the space, because okay, the b4 pawn is giving some good space in the wing side to black, so he tries to fight for the space and play d4 later. There are another positional way to play this position, who is knight bd2, going for the c4 square, who is free. The other of the problem of the move before is that you are losing all the control of the move c4. So knight b2 here is the normal move, but okay, c3 by Divya is completely fine, rook b8, and here, until here, everything goes normal. But Divya Desmuk doesn't understand the position. She played bishop g5, which is a bad move, because she played that with the idea of capture on f6, but here this is not the good plan. Here the correct plan is just knight bd2, bishop e6, and knight c4. That's the normal play for white. For example, takes here. Black can play. There is a game of Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces from 13 years ago against Peter Fiedler. I analyzed this game some months ago. I really like the plan employed by Magnus. Here, to learn a different plan, knight a7, going to knight b5 is a possibility when the pawn is on a5. But okay, I'm going to show the game of Magnus Carlsen because he made a very interesting plan. Rook e1, queen c8, bishop c2, and now rook d8. Very interesting. The idea is just break with d5 one day. And when he returned with the knight, now the knight is not attacking on e5, so this d5 breakthrough by Magnus Carlsen. It takes, knight takes, rook takes, and okay, Magnus won a good game. But the most interesting part of this game is the plan employed by Magnus with first h6, well, bishop e6, and here h6, avoiding knight g5, and now I really like this plan of queen c8, rook d8, bishop f8, and break with d5. Very, very interesting plan. he finally won a good game against Peter Fielded. So okay, knight e2 is the natural move, but okay. Divya play bishop g5, and you and you say, okay, show me your cards. And you are going to go back to h4, go back to e3, have no so much sense. And Divya, of course, taking on f6. That for a reason she played bishop g5. And bishop takes f6 by Yu and Yun, and now knight b2. But here, let's analyze the trade of this bishop, because okay, it used to be common to keep black only with this piece, because this used to be a bad bishop. But just in this position, this is not the best plan, because black is coming with knight here, knight here, knight here one day. Maybe later he can play c6, d5, and the f6 bishop is going to be active one day, going to e7 and c5. So this is not really a bad bishop, and the huge problem of play bishop g5 and bishop f6 is not only that now black have this bishop, who is not the best bishop of the world, of course, but the huge problem is that white is losing the control of the f4 square. That's one of the main problems of this plan. That the knight now is going to land to f4, and white have now the dark square bishop. For example, it's so common in this table of position with when white plays bishop b2 or something like that, leaving this diagonal, that black goes fast with knight f4. And this is more or less similar. Now white give the dark square bishop, the f4 square is completely free. So for that reason, here Yu made a great move, knight e7, improving his knight and going for the f4 square. Rook e1, knight g6. Here g3 was the best, just covering the f4 square. I don't see a reason of why I don't make that. Because okay, the knight on f4 is going to be very, very annoying, because it's going to attack g2, is putting pressure here, and the knight on f4 is a bit if you haven't the dark square bishop. So here g3 looks the move. Okay, she tries to break the center, which is the other normal plan. Knight f4 by Yun, bishop g4, and now she play g5. Who, okay, it's not a bad move, but here black have this great plan, because when we have the bishop pair and where our opponent only have one bishop, or in general when we have a bishop of a square that our opponent having this bishop, we should try to open this bishop. This is very, very important to activate the bishop that our opponent haven't. So for that reason, the machine play b takes c3, b takes, and now c5, completely opening the bishop that our opponent haven't. So that's a great plan and great concept. For example, here can take, and black is slightly better here. Okay, now the bishop is not open, but at least we have a pass pawn here before it's coming, so we have diagonal for our bishops. So this was a great plan. B takes, e takes, and c5. I really like. By the way, d5 played by Yu and Yun is interesting too. He's coming with d4 and trying to attack in the king side. Black shouldn't care about his king, because okay, this bishop defends really well this king, and white have many difficulties to attack the black king. So black is completely free to push d4 if he wants. D takes, and now she tried knight f1, trying to trade queens, but or in general trying to reach this square. But here h3 was just easier, because okay, black is threatening g4, so what we should play? h3, stopping g4. Okay, you can think, okay, but black can play h5 anyway, and it's going to play g4. But I learned this concept like 3 years ago in a classical game that I lost, because okay, it happened the same. The game was a Sicilian, a Rosolimo Sicilian, where my opponent played g5, and here I don't play h3 because I think, okay, he's going to play h5 and he's going to play g4 anyway. But with h5, black is opening his king too. So that's the idea of h3, that now the black king is more exposed than with the pawn on h6. That's why h3 used to benefit white in this type of position, forcing black to play h5, opening his own king. Sorry. So h3 was the best. Knight f1 played by Yu and Yun, and now just d4. And black is better. Knight d2, takes. And here, okay, she played knight d3, who is normal move, but she had a stronger maneuver. I say that we should activate the bishop that our opponent haven't, so the correct move is bishop b7. great move, going to c5, and the bishop is going to be a completely beast on c5. Knight d3 by you. Rook e2, bishop g5. Okay, she activate the bishop in another way, but bishop e7, bishop c5 was stronger, of course. Knight b3, knight f4, attacking the rook, rook d2, queen f6, knight e3, queen c6, queen f1, and here h5. Great move. Just white cannot move his pieces. For example, queen e4 is not really good because now allows white to activate. So h5, just keeping the position, and white have no active plan. And this knight is very good, this bishop is very good. The bishop on c8 is perfectly placed. The rook is in open file, the queen is attacking the pawn, the bishop. So black have a very pleasant position. Rook e1 by Desmond, trying to play knight d2. The knight is not making nothing on b3. h4, she follow the attack, knight d2. Here I really like king b7, king g7, just improving the pieces, leaving the right squares, and one day the rook can gain to g8. I really like this move. But okay, she play rook b2, who looks active too. Bishop d5. Here she take on c3, who, okay, I don't really like because she's opening files and you don't need this pawn for nothing. Just queen c5, putting more pressure into all the dark squares are just better. But okay, queen c3 looks natural. And here I say that we should activate our bishop, so g3, opening the dark squares this was a very good move, because I said white have no dark square bishop, so if we open the dark squares, we're going to win. So g3 was very strong, just forgetting the exchange and giving up the exchange, because after take, the queen cannot take, because knight h3 and bishop e3. So g takes, king h1, now just queen e3, and the f7 pawn is, the f2 pawn, sorry, is very annoying. And here black is completely winning. For example, h3 is coming, followed by if g3, queen g3, queen f3 checkmate. So g3 was the strongest move. Okay, she moved the rook. He didn't want to give the exchange. King h1, king g7, finally improving the king. Very good move. Rook here, queen b4, knight e5, g3. Finally, black opened the dark square, and here Divya Desmuk made the decisive mistake. But okay, his position is very hard to defend. The only move to still be in the game was f takes d3. Okay, it's true that it's natural, but after h takes, now he should play queen f3, trying to activate the queen. Now, for example, rook takes, queen b2, queen e5, and okay, this position is more or less equal. But okay, maybe black is slightly better, but f takes g3 is the best defense. Instead of that, she play knight f3, who is just completely lost, just rook f2. The endgame is completely lost for white. Let's say that black have 2 extra pawns, the bishop pair, active pieces. Now I really like this tactic of knight h4, e5, attacking the rook and attacking the bishop. And here Jun, okay, he should give back the piece, but she had a better way to make that, playing rook e8, and after rook takes h4, rook d8, pinning the bishop, and black is completely winning. Black is threatening, for example, rook d5 followed by bishop b7, or bishop b7, d8, c6. Black is rook e5. Black is completely winning. Instead of that, she played rook f2 and she pinned the bishop, but after h takes, here she completely failed. He should just play a rook f5 or rook e4. Both moves avoiding the move bishop e4, because after c6, you miss the tactic of Desmond, who is rook h7. Great tactical results to save the game. King takes, bishop e4, and just taking the d8 rook. So they, for example, here with rook f5, and in the next move you can play c6, for example. That's the best defense. So they fall into this rook endgame, who is a draw, but okay, at least black have an extra pawn. And okay, Yu finally managed to win the endgame, so let's see what Divya Desmuk make. But okay, here one day, okay, black, let's understand this endgame. Black is going to advance this rook, he's going to push this pawn, And one day black is going to game with this king to the king side, sorry, to the queen side, and try to just move the rook and promote the pawn. Okay, this is more or less yes, inevitable. Black is going to make that 100%. I have no way to stop this black plan. But during that time, white should be able to take this pawn, sacrifice the rook for the a pawn, and then try to promote this, not promote, but advance this pawn and force black to give the pawn. So okay, let's review what they say. Black is going to, okay, let's take out all, I don't know, yes, black is going to advance the a pawn with the help of the rook. Black is going to advance the a pawn. Later he's going to gain with the king to the queen side, and black want to just move the rook and promote the a pawn. But in this time, white should be able to capture the f pawn and later sacrifice the rook for the a pawn to can advance the g pawn and reach a drawish position of rook against pawn. To make that, white one day should advance the pawn to g4, having the pawn closer to the promotion. Here maybe it's not the best moment to advance the pawn, because rook a3 is cutting the king. Okay, the position is still being a draw, but this is maybe not my favorite moment to play g4. For that reason, here I like king f3, because now you are threatening just g4 and trying to advance your king. For example, rook a4 and now g4. That's the idea. Have the king, have the pawn as much closer as possible from the promotion, because let's say one day white is going to take this pawn, sacrifice the rook for the other pawn, and he wants this pawn as much closer as possible to the promotion. So king f3 is my favorite move here, trying to push g4. But Divya Desmond played bad this game because she completely forgot about the g pawn. For example, if rook a3 here, just advance the king. Okay, she just start to move the rook. Okay, this plan is logical. Rook c7 and rook a7, placing the rook from behind to attack the pawn is a good plan. But I don't like that because now after rook a3 the king is cut in the second rank, and it's not the same to have the king in the second rank and the king on the third rank, of course. King h3, okay, good move. King f5, rook a8, a5. Like I said, black is going to advance his pawn. Rook a6, rook a1, king g2. But let's see that here the white king is a little bit back and the pawn is still on the initial square. a4, king f3, a3, a3. That's the plan. Black should take care of half this pawn in the sixth rank, because for example, if here rook a1, if he advanced the pawn to a2, now the rook cannot move, and the problem is that the king cannot hide from the checks. So if we just give checks all the time, black have no square to hide the king. That's why it's very, very important to keep the pawn on a3 in this type of endgames. So with the pawn on a3, now black plan is going to be game with the king, and then move the rook and promote the pawn. So white should one day take on f6 and try to advance this pawn. And you cannot came here you cannot came to e2, for example, with the king, because in the moment that you came to e2, here black have this surprise a2, because now black have the tactic of rook h1, and if we take rook h2, or if we leave the second rank, black have rook f2, and if we came, we are not in time to defend the rook. So that's why we should keep with the pawn on e3, we should keep the king at least on f2, or on f2 or on f3, but we should keep the king one square from g2 a2. This is the two safest square. For example, if black comes to a2, it's very important here to play king g2 and keep the king on the squares a2 and g2 without checks. All the other squares lost. So okay, here I like the move g4, just finally placing the pawn on the f4 rank. This is my favorite move, and just keeping the king here. G3 is safe, because okay, if a2 again, we have time to return to g2. So g4 was my favorite move, just advancing the pawn. Instead of that, Divya still without understand the position. King e6, rook a6, king e5, and here he made his first losing mistake with rook a4. Was necessary play g4, just taking space with the pawn and placing the pawn as much farther as possible. It's very obvious. But okay, both players doesn't understand the position well here. King d4 by, for example, g4, king d4, king g3, king c3, king g2, king b2, and now takes. And now we can take the pawn, and later we're going to sacrifice the rook, and this pawn on g4 is winning. Instead of that, he played rook g4, and now Julian Jones should have played f5. This was the winning move, just avoiding g4, and later we're going to game to the queen side. Again, she failed with king d5, and again, Divya Desmu should play g4. She doesn't play g4, so g4 was the only drawish move. Instead of that, she played king g2, losing move. Again, Julian Jones should have played f5. Here he missed the idea. She played king c5, draw again. g4 was draw again, but like 5th or 6th consecutive blunder of the game. Rook a6, and now the position is lost for white with the pawn on g3. Just finally black managed to move the rook and is going to promote the pawn. Added to that, the king on b5 is very annoying too, because he's avoiding the rook to return to a6. So here, check, check, check. Now this is winning for black. So very bad. The Spanish game and the middle game in the Spanish was very interesting, but the ending was played very bad. So okay, interesting game by Desmuk and Yuan Jun. I like how Yuan Jun played the middle game. But okay, in the end she failed a little bit and she missed the tactic of rook a7, so it's not a great game. But okay, it was interesting. So let's see how continue this tournament. Bye bye.